And I came back to Israel to fight the War of Independence. When the War of Independence broke out in May 15, I was here May 19, and I immediately joined the army, of course, 1948, and I'm here since. To tell you something, one cannot describe first the joy of the decision of the United Nations, then the determination of the Jews who did not have anything. In fact, the army, our army in 1948, was not equipped at all for a war. But this army won the war. And in June 1949, in the Rhodes Conference, the Arab states had to accept a ceasefire, not a peace, a ceasefire, and recognize the existence of the state of Israel as a Jewish state. One cannot describe these months and the first years of Israel. Israel didn't have anything. No work, no food. We had food rations. No work, no food, no place where to stay, by the way. I myself slept for many weeks on the beach, on benches, in some boulevards in Tel Aviv. I had no money, I had no work, I had no place where to stay. I'm not the only one. But no one can explain and no one can describe the feelings we had that we lived in an independent Jewish state. And of course, little by little, we all made our way. I became a journalist. I had been a journalist before even. In 45 I started, end of 45, my so-called career as a journalist reporting on a trial against, the first trial against a Nazi crew of a concentration camp. The Camp Brandung, concentration camp Brandung in Belgium. This was my first assignment as a journalist. And I went on, I did both. I worked in the underground and I worked for the French François at that time, #1 in France. Today it's a very little paper. And I came to Israel and I wanted to become a journalist again, to go on. But I had a problem. In order to be a journalist in a country, the first thing you should know is the language. I didn't. It helps. I didn't know the language, of course. I spoke from the army. I was in the army for 10 months. I have a very good memory, so when I hear a word, I remember the word. So I did speak quite fluently Hebrew, but I couldn't write the bloody language because, have you ever seen Hebrew? Don't even try. For me it was hieroglyphs, you know. So it took me 4.5 years to write. In the beginning, I went to a sports paper, by the way. Why? I was a sports freak. I still am, by the way. Why did I go? Because it was a weekly, and they did not have they had no world sports. They didn't have money enough to buy the agencies, so they had no international sports. And my father, he still was in France. He sent me the French daily sports paper, L'Equipe. Took 3-4 days. This was a weekly. So I said I would do a column, sports in the world, which I did. But then I didn't write it. I dictated. Some of them wrote my stuff. I told them in Hebrew and they wrote in Hebrew because I couldn't write it then. And this goes on for 4.5 years until I was able to write Hebrew myself. By the way, I became correspondent of L'Equipe. I still am. In March 1953, which means that in March, should I make it till March, I will be correspondent for L'Equipe and for France Football for 55 years. I'm the oldest correspondent as well. I don't have to explain that to anyone. There is no person in the world who is a correspondent in the paper for 55 years. I am. When I was 50, they made me I had a fantastic reception at the offices in Paris. When I be 55, I imagine they will do another reception for me. So anyhow, And then I went and I joined Yediot Ahronot, then Israel's third paper, today, since about 30 years already, Israel's largest circulation paper. I'm with the paper for 51 years. And believe me, there's one thing I can say. It's the only profession I wanted. It's the only profession I know, more or less. Some say I'm a good journalist, some say I'm not. It's not important. Me, I feel very, very happy about it. By the way, my father was a journalist and writer. This is why I wanted to become a journalist. And one thing, I'm a Zionist till today. I know all about politics, geopolitics, anything, everything. By the way, I usually do what you call essays, opinions. I do a lot. I'm a so-called expert in history of World War II, history, of course, of Shoah, what would you call it, the genocide or the Holocaust. I'm an expert about Zionism, about Jewish affairs. All this I do till today. I do also what we call grand reportage. I write reports, stories of travel. I'm traveling a lot. I'm quite often invited to, how should I say, to speeches, if you can call it a speech. I'm not a speaker, by the way. I'm telling stories usually. I'm going in Friday, by the way. I'm going back to Switzerland, where I've been last year. I'm going back to Zurich, to Basel, and to Bern for 3 more meetings with people. And in between, I'm going by train to Frankfurt, where I have another one. So I got 4 of them in 6 days. But I just came back from Hong Kong, where I had 14 in 9 days. I do speak sometimes twice and 3 times a day as well. Why? Because I'm a Zionist, and because I want people to know about Israel, and to people to know about the Shoah, about the Holocaust. These are subjects people should know and must know. And I think that for me, having lived through all this, I did not read this in books. I didn't learn it in seminars. I lived through all this. I have witnessed all this. So it's easier for me, and maybe it's more important, that things should be told by someone who was there. So, as we have said, I would like you to ask questions, because, believe me, I can answer every question. I even have a few answers for the same question, no problem for me. I'm very good at answering questions. So you please, if you do have questions, and you are fit enough, because understand today you have a marathon, a marathon of conferences, but if you're fit enough and still not too tired, please ask questions. Thank you for your attention. Yes?
If I understood it well, you said that you were a member of the crew.
A crew member of the Exodus.
How did you manage to get there? And
I was.
What work you?
It was easy. I'm not a seaman, of course. I'm still not a seaman. I was there for over 2 months, but I didn't learn anything about seamanship. It was easy. When I boarded the Exodus, then called the President Warfield, this is the original name of the ship, in Sète. Sète is a beautiful little town in southern France.